Today we are gonna talk about carburetors.
So guys, over here we have this carburetor. This is a Stromberg 175 CD, and this is the carburetor from my Volvo Amazon with a B20 engine. So the thing this thing has is a special regulator for the mixture, which actually will open a valve. The thing I do with these things is they tend to be not that effective. So the thing we do is just screw them closed so they stay closed and don't work. The other thing we have, which will be on the other side of the carburetor, is a choke assembly. This will be positioned, let's see, like this. And then we have a throttle assembly, which is this brass axle. It will be put in there, and then when that is in, they will shove this disc, which is actually a throttle control valve. They will shove that in, and that will close up that hole. The things these Strombergs tend to have, especially when they have run on gas, and I'm not meaning like the fuel, but like the gas you would cook on, so like the methane, butane, I don't know how it's called, but in the Netherlands most Amazons run on that type of fuel. This is one of the axles out of this carburetor, and this one is also damaged. Also, this is something that won't close that hole properly, and that will leak. I will get a light out of there, and I really hope you guys can see it when I find the spot. But right over there, you can see it right now, and you can also maybe hear it. There is a wich, and that is causing this carburetor to actually malfunction and suck air in through that position. So when this is over here and I blow some brake clean on that position, then the engine RPM would increase, and that means a bit of that brake clean can actually run through this valve in the carburetor and in the position where that valve is, and then make the engine richer, so it will turn up the RPM. So what you need to do is get yourself a rebuild kit. This is a rebuild kit for this carburetor. It even has, as you can see, this thing where the axle sits in. You even get that's like the bushing it turns on. So it's a bit of a big job to fix it, but we'll get there. So the other thing these carbs have, when you're getting back to every function, is some of them have a valve that looks like this, and it sits somewhere around here in a specific way. Let's see, I think it was like this, and this valve is actually an option on the later models of this carburetor, and this is a bypass valve. And the thing that it does when you're having full throttle, so when this disc is like in a wide open space, then and you all of a sudden need to like brake, and you let your foot off the throttle, this thing will close. So the thing it does is it will close all the airflow and fuel flow in your engine, and that can make your engine like stutter. And the thing this does is actually prevent the engine from stuttering, because there's a valve in there, and these two holes will actually bypass that whole system and just bypass like the throttle valve, like this disc, and it will throw fuel from this hole to this hole, which will end up in front of that disc and then make the engine like slowly go down in RPM. So let's go into the inside of this carburetor, and this one is already mostly taken apart, because it's not hard taking things apart. We all know that, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. This is your float chamber, very specific size and shape. We can put that aside. Then we have, normally we have a very nice gasket around here, which are really leaky sometimes. And right in here there's a huge screw. This screw actually covers up the jet. This is your jet assembly. We will talk about that later, but we'll first talk about this screw. This is actually a brass screw that turns in the carburetor, just like you saw earlier. And what this does, if the fuel is above this level, then the fuel can turn into these holes and then fill up the jet. I like to call these a jet chamber. I don't know how they are specifically called, but I think they are some kind of a chamber to fill up the surrounding area of your jet and fill this thing with fuel. They say you can turn these down, and that's actually where this whole system is for. When you turn this thing in and you cover it up, then you can still turn the screw out when the cover is on there, because there is a huge flat screwdriver spot in there. In my experience, they don't do much. Some people say these are to turn your engine richer, because you'll change the float level. I will also make a drawing of that right here, but I think they don't do much, so I just screw them in nice and tight. But always when you take off this bucket, when you take off the float chamber, just really get a new gasket on there, because it's, in my opinion, a very stupid idea to make a bucket of fuel sit against this part. This is actually the heat shield of my Volvo, and right behind that heat shield, where my hand is right now, is my exhaust. So why on earth would you make a float chamber with a huge hole in there, which tend to leak sometimes, right above an exhaust? I don't know, but they did it. We take a screwdriver, we can pry that open very carefully, don't break it, and then we have our float. So this is actually the system which will control the fuel level in your carburetor. And how that works, on here you have a brass piece, as you can see, and there is a tiny thing in there which will go up and down. This will actually close off the fuel, so when your carburetor is down, you can put fuel in here in this line. I don't know why my camera has so much trouble focusing today, but if you put fuel in here, then it will open, and then you can close it, and then it will shut off. And the way that works is, I will try to show that to you. Wait. You can hear it closing off. And the thing is, these Volvos, they need to have the size, and they are mostly written on the side of them. So right over here, there is actually written on there, and it says 1.75. So you need the 1.75 closer, and if you have that right size, it should be okay. On the top part, we have a top, we have a spring, and we have this thing. This thing is actually the main part of your carburetor. The top you can put away. We call this thing on the top, by the way, just so you guys know. This is the top. There is a damper in there. And this is actually a damping system. It works on a vacuum. And what it does, it will suck a vacuum and suck this thing up. These things, the rubber piece you see over here, needs to be nice and flexible. Don't buy them of like any other brand than the original manufacturer, because they tend to be very stiff or just too supple. But it needs to be like this. It needs to like go out of shape, but you need to be able to put it back to shape. Also on the bottom here there is a needle, and this needle is the piece you can take out, but you need to be very careful. Just put it in and then just lightly turn the screw, and then you can slide the needle out. Always put this thing away very carefully. So I'm just gonna take a nice basket and put that thing in there so we don't lose it. So what do we have left? It is a very simple body, and we have all the parts laid out over there. So this is actually your Stromberg 175 CD. This is where the shell goes, this is where the throttle body goes, this is your jet, this is your float chamber thingy. I always forget the name in English for that. And here is where that huge damping rubber is going into, and right over there you can see the other end of the jet. So we need to get that jet out, because jets are also a wearable part on these carburetors. The thing is, they are not fun to get out. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna throw this thing under my press, and some people will hate me for that, but I literally have no other idea of getting this thing out. So I will fill it up with some WD-40, and then it should slide out very easily, because they are not so stuck in there, because they are just press fit. So they're a little bit oversized and they're just press fit, but it is doable with a press. Just be very careful. And the thing I like to use is a round piece of wood, so you don't damage the jet. But of course this one is also coming out, because we're gonna throw that away, and we have a brand new jet over there. This thing over here is the jet, as you can see, brand new. So we are also going to replace the jet on this one. So guys, as you could see, the jet is pressed out of the carburetor body. As you can see, it was right over there. Here is the old jet. So we have pressed this thing out. It isn't damaged at all, as you can see. Just be very careful. The thing I ended up with doing, I couldn't find some round wood, is this socket, which is a 6mm. It fits very nice on top of this thing, and of course this is the old jet, so I just needed to get it out, but this fits and it worked. So this is the place where the axle went in, and the thing that closes off the axle is actually a gasket. These are the gaskets which will be pressed in there, and the funny thing about that is I have my old one here, and as you can see, when I press this one is just, well, that sums it up, I think. Look, this is a gasket. On most carburetors I've seen, these are just completely gone, and that's not how they're supposed to be. And these are rubber, and I think you guys can see it when the camera wants to focus again. Give it some time. That's what you get when you buy a $400 camera. But yeah, these are nice and soft. You can squish them. They're nice and fluffy. So, and I think we actually need one, but if you have a dual carb setup, this shaft will be longer and run through the whole carburetor, and then it will require two of those. So one on this side and one on the other side. So guys, that part. Jet is in position. It's around 0.95 millimeters under the bridge. So when I measure, it should be between 1 millimeter down and flush, and it's around 0.90, 0.95 when I measured just a second ago. So let's do it off camera. It's exactly 0.90, so that's within the margin. That's also a way how you can adjust the rich and lean level of your carburetor. So for now, that part is done. What you're gonna do, we're gonna take the float leveler, and we're gonna, or like the, I'm forgetting all the names today. Let's see how it works. 23, needle valve, that's it. This is a needle valve, because it's a valve with a needle. So we're gonna take the aluminum ring, we're gonna put it around this needle valve, and then we are gonna screw that into there. Don't make it too tight. There shouldn't be any fuel leaking through it, but you don't want to ruin the thread in your carburetor body. Then we have the float. So this is a float, and the thing we have with this, it's actually you need to put it in there with this axle, just the boat. You put the axle through your float. You can try these in water and see if they will float. That's all they do. If they don't float, it's broken and you need to get a new one. Get it in there, make sure it lines up with the notches, and then press it in there so it fits nicely in those two brackets. You should hear them click. And now you have a float, and it should bounce. The thing you need to do next, as you can see, it's not level at all. If you look in your Haynes manual, and I think you guys will have them, then you have this page. And this page shows everything, like that emission control thingy. Up there is a throttle valve control with like a bypass valve for your choke. And over here we have float level. So as you can see, for everyone, so inches and millimeters, the front needs to be, it is A, needs to be between 9 and 13 millimeters, and the back needs to be between 15 and 17. So how you're doing that is you're taking your camera, or well, I'm taking my camera, and I'm just gonna walk you through it. So you'll take this thing, and then you can shove it on the back, and just make sure this corner right there is above the float, so like that. And then we are now at 11, so that's not good. Then you take this lip, you can bend it, just very carefully bend it. Always be careful with your calipers. All right, okay. Look, we need to be between 15 and 17, and we are exactly at 1628. The front needs to be between 9 and 13, and we are 1143. So this is actually a perfect float position. It's right between the margin. It's nice up and down. You can also blow in this and see if it turns up. I recently replaced this O-ring, but I'm not gonna risk anything today because I just want to get my car running. So we're gonna take a flat screwdriver, wiggle it under there without stepping myself on my fingers. The easiest way is just to break it. So here's the old rubber ring, here's that thing. We have the new one over here. The thing I like to do, normally I use red rubber grease, but I have only normal grease right now. So I'm greasing this rubber up so it will slide a bit easier. And then you will just, so now it's on top, and then roll it down, and there you have a new O-ring, so that won't leak anymore. We have our new gasket, so we're gonna throw the gasket on there, make sure everything is clean, which is not fully, but it is right now. So we're gonna throw that new gasket on there, make sure everything is clean, and then we can start putting this back. These are all now nice and tight, so this part shouldn't leak anymore. Now we're gonna get this part. We already looped it up, but I'm gonna put some tiny bit more on there, just so it will slide better, and the fuel will get rid of any excess that gets in the flow chamber. So that's that. Nice big screwdriver. I've seen people use coins for them. Seen people use very weird stuff to get these in. But even for this part I want to make a custom screwdriver because it's just so easy to ruin them. So as you can hear, the lower section is working. It's going up and down, so that's a very good thing. I want to install the valve. So this valve and this axle and these rings. So I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on these rings, and then we need to put that in there. Let's see how that goes. Just very light taps. It is actually better to do this, of course, with a rubber mallet or something, but I sadly don't have them around here. I have a crazy amount of parts and stuff, but I don't have a rubber mallet. But what I do, I will just hammer them in with the old copper ring. And I think we are good. So there is a brand new seal in the carburetor which will seal up our shaft. So here we have our shaft. Let's get that cleaned up. No dirt and debris on there. So a bit of grease. Alright. Look at this. This is just operating nice and smoothly. Make sure that it's turning around and stuff. And it's working properly. Then the next part is actually assembling this disc, which should close up the whole chamber nice and tight. And the thing, you can see that, is actually covering it and just looking into a light. So I'm looking up right now in my light and it closes off perfectly. So this is what I want. Then we have these two screws, which will need to go in there. And they can be a bit tricky to get in there, I have experienced. Oh, look at this. That's working nicely. So the next step, which will be, I don't know, what will it be? But I think we're just gonna go and mount everything else. So over here I have another rubber ring. This is from the other assembly. And with other assembly I mean the temperature gauge. And inside of here is actually a metal part which is temperature regulated. Let me just get one. So over here we have that part. This is actually a temperature regulated bimetal spring which will close and open a valve. And this valve, as you can see, is rounded off, but it shouldn't be rounded off. It should be like this. It should be like a point, as you can see. So this one is a point and this one is just completely round, the same one. But what I did, you can turn this bolt here, and I just closed mine completely off because these systems tend to don't work very well. So I don't use it anymore. You get a rubber washer to seal that thing off. If it doesn't seal off, you will have some air leaks in the system. So you don't want that. And then it's just simple and tight screwing it down. That is nice and tight. So I think this will seal off properly. This cap on the top, it can be a bit loose. That's no problem. That's no big deal. That's okay. So that one is back. Then we can put back this assembly. This is the hot air valve. This should be able to press in, and you should be able to turn it freely. I have rebuilt mine. It's very easy. It's just a bolt. Take it loose, take it apart, oil it up, and you're done. So not very special, this part. And it will just let's see, screw in like, is it like this? I think so. Yes, it is like that. And then on top of there will be your whole throttle assembly. This works, this operates, so this is fine. Everything else is just mounting, so we're gonna do that. This is actually the position which will hold your show cable. It will be on like this. So that's that. That's another part done. If you're still watching, please consider subscribing, because that will help me out tremendously on making another of these videos. I know these videos are not the most amazing to watch in terms of like fun, but they are needed because I get so many questions about people wanting to fix their carburetors and don't know how to do it. And that's why I'm doing this. So guys, on to the next part. We have here that special vacuum operated throttle disc, how you want to call it. And we actually have some pieces here. There is a plastic ring, we have a metal ring, we have 4 screws, we have the rubber piece, and we have the center piece. So some types, like the other Strombergs, they have a special adjustment screw in the middle of here, which will actually turn the centerpiece down. This one doesn't. So if you look inside of here, and I'm sorry, but you guys can't really look inside of there, but they have like a special way of adjusting this needle. The easiest way to see if yours has that, there are 2 slots here on the top. And there is a special kind of adjustment tool that goes in there with a Allen key screw thing, and then you can adjust the needle up and down to make your engine richer or leaner. We don't have that, so we can put this one back in the parts bin. So guys, there we have a brand new rubber seal. And then we're going to show you guys exactly what I mean with putting it back together correctly. Because when you put this thing back, when you get the new one, there is actually one little pointy thingy over here, as you can see, and there's also one over there. And these will actually catch in your carburetor. Will catch into the ridge that is over. Let's see, there's a dimple, and we are gonna put that one, the dimple. We're gonna put that one over there, put the screws back, and when you're putting the screws back, make sure you don't move that rubber piece out of the notch it's in, because then your carburetor won't operate properly. As you can see, it's all closing off very nicely on the bottom. The ring is in. Over here you can see the needle, and it has a spring in there, and you can also see the tiny ring over there. It needs to be just flush. So wait, let me get, yes, like that. So as you can see, the brass part is flush with the body, and the fiber ring on there is just sticking out. But over here we have the aluminum part, and this rubber piece is bolted to this by that side, and just like that side you have a notch over here which will actually connect in the carburetor body over there. So guys, just like I said, you need to put this thing in, press the needle in, then close this thing up. So we have the spring, put the spring in, and take your top. This is the air filter side. Then there is a line on the housing, as you can see. So the line goes right at the same spot as the line on there, and that is exactly how it should be. And then we can take our 4 screws. So that's that. Always make sure that when you drop the piston, it makes a nice clunky sound. And that's it. I think we have a finished carb. Of course we need to put some oil in here, and the oil I'm using is just regular ATF, so automatic transmission fluid. But for now this is done. So what we're gonna do, we are gonna put this thing on the car, then I'm gonna get my color tune out, and then we'll see if it works. So let's go.
So guys, this was the Stromberg video. My carb is on. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye. Rolling Heritage signing out.